Friday, and I'm so excited to be on here with you. I want you guys to like, share, tag, invite anybody you may believe word. This is going to impact your life for the better. God has a plan for your life, and His plan for your life is to prosper you in every area of your life. I'm not going to be before you long, but before I get into my message, I want to talk to you about an event that's going to be happening tonight. It's called the Envision Business Wealth Builders Meeting. It's at 8 p.m. If you want the link, definitely DM me. I will give you that information. It's going to be a wealth of information that I believe that will help you grow, that will get you the generational wealth that you've been looking for, the generational information that you've been looking for to help propel you to that next level. And so I'm excited to be hosting that tonight. And so, but before I just want to say that I am so grateful to be on here again this Friday. And today I will be talking to you about the fear of the impact. The fear of the impact. You may be thinking to yourself, what does that even mean? How does that correlate to where I am, where I'm going? What does that even mean? Right? When it comes to the fear of the impact, it means that you don't want to take the necessary steps in order for you to be able to make a difference in someone's life. There's something that's on the inside of you that someone else needs. And because you don't understand and recognize the impact that you have, you won't take those specific steps to get it, to get there, to do that necessary thing, to produce that necessary gift, to move into the destiny that you're supposed to move into. And so that is what I talk about when I talk about the fear of impact. Here's the thing. It talks about it multiple times in the Bible how Cain was jealous of his brother Abel, right? All he had to do was move into a new element instead of having envy of his brother. What he should have done was tried to get the information that Abel had to move into the promise that he was supposed to move into. It was all about moving. It was all about understanding the fearlessness. It's all about understanding the authority that he had, the gift that he had. And so if he would have actually walked into that, he would have moved into the promises that was meant for him, right? That's why God didn't accept his sacrifice, right? Because there was something missing. It wasn't necessarily for other people. It was just for them to just for him to get whatever God had for him. It wasn't to impact others. Abel's gift was to always impact others. That's why he gave the best. Because if you're going to give the best, if you're going to move into that element, it's all about helping other people. It's about being that example. Another story in the Bible that you may recognize is the story of Esau and Jacob, right? Esau gave up his birthright. He didn't understand the impact that the birthright had. And so because he didn't understand the impact that the birthright had, he sold it to his brother. Understand that there's something that's specific in regards to what gifting and what talent and what level that you want to get to in order for you to get to that thing. And so you got to stop walking in the fear of the impact because you don't really know necessarily how big that impact is. Anytime Jesus went anywhere, he transformed some lives. There was an impact that was left on people that was connected to Jesus. And so as we begin to move into the next level and the next season of 2021, understand that there is an impact that you're supposed to leave on this earth. There's supposed to be people that are supposed to follow you. There's an example that you're supposed to set. There is a generation of people that will come after you that will follow your example.
Man, I love that. Like, you can tell that our special guest today is not only a financial educator, but he is a man who knows the word of God. Hello, everybody. This is Hope, and I am so excited to be on here today. I know I shouldn't have left you without a dope beat to step to, and it's been a lot of things going on. So I know, whereas you used to me coming on like 2 times at least a week or 3 times a week, I am back, but I'm getting ready for a new relaunch. But listen, come on, and I am not at the least discouraged because I don't see nobody on yet, because you're going to catch this and you're going to catch it on replay and your life is going to be changed. So when you're catching it, as you're getting on and you're catching it on the replay, I need you to do something. I need you to share. Please come to Hope More. Little HOPE, uppercase MORE, because you don't need but a little bit of hope to want more out of life. So come to Hope More Facebook channel and go ahead and like my page, you guys, so you'll be contacted when I come on. As well as if you're on YouTube channel, it's still the same. Lowercase HOPE, uppercase MORE, one word. I need you to like, share, click the little bell so when I come on, you can come on with me. So you know what, the month of May, we've been doing May we, you know how your mama teaches you how to ask in a nice way, like may I do this, may I do that. So we get into these conversations where for some reason they can get uncomfortable. Now it's not the worst of the worst or the best of the best, but you know, when it comes to finances and stuff, people often don't feel very, very, very comfortable. So during this happy hour, oh, I forgot my drink. Oh, I forgot to tell my guests to get a drink. So we're going to be drinking from the fountain of knowledge. That's going to be our happy hour. I don't care if you're drinking some water, something else, but let this be a happy hour. What today we're going to be talking about is basically getting real about being broke despite the bling. Okay, I don't have any bling to show you because I'm not particularly a bling person, but whether it's our car or our clothes or you know, something about what we want to do, we often get into that whole type of trap facade of wanting to look big when little got us. Have you ever heard that phrase, looking big when little got you? I know I used to get mad when my mom and dad would say that. But in other words, where we're more concerned about how things present as if we're wealthy or we're doing really well or we're upper class or upper middle class, that we're more concerned about what that looks like than actually where we are in our own lives in a real way. So today we have an expert, and he's going to kill me saying expert, but he's a financial educator. I think he's an expert in life because not only has this man been put through his own personal relationship with money, good and bad, he has taken so much time out in the last several years of his life, although he's very young, to actually understand the finance industry, to understand what it means to live in financial integrity. And you know what? He's helping me out. So I hope he can help some of you guys out as we talk about getting real about being broke despite the bling. And this is for everybody, right? Man, woman, child, any race, any status, any region. But can we get real a little bit? African Americans are big on the bling. To be broke, you can't look at the average African American man or woman and tell how much money they may have in the bank. They could be driving a Rolls Royce and renting their room from somebody in a mansion. You never know, because it seems like appearance means a lot for us, and there's some historical reasons behind that, and maybe we'll get into it. But without further ado, I need you guys to click, share. And you know, I didn't do what I normally do. I need to go click on my phone to make sure it's on my personal page, as well as joining any groups, abide by the group rules, to make sure that people hear this information because we need it. Any of y'all need it? I mean, is there anyone here just independently wealthy so much that no information about how you can maybe deal with being better employed, understanding how not to live paycheck to paycheck, how you can leave a legacy for your children and not basically leave them with a bill for the funeral? Yes, I said it. Y'all know we good for passing the plate to try to pay for Uncle Jeep's funeral because he don't have no life insurance. We're going to break that. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Mr. Justin DeFoor. I need you guys to give him a great Hope More welcome. I need to feel you in the spirit, okay? I need to feel you in the spirit. Let's bring him on, Justin.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you. much for having me. I greatly appreciate it. Thanks so much for that introduction. Again, I'm so excited. I'm so elated to be here. I'm so humble. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am going to be talking about a lot of information in regards to finance, in regards to generational wealth. And you definitely said something in regards to basically paying for other people's funerals and stuff like that. That is definitely something that a lot of people, especially in our community, I know for mine anyway, I don't know about you, mine, there's some people that, they do pass the plate and, the GoFundMe and all that stuff just because they didn't have things in order. And, it is I believe it's my passion and my purpose to be able to present that information to people and hopefully get them not only just the education, but become financially free. So that's the goal.
Yeah. You know what, Justin, before we get into it, and I know I slated us to be here for a little while, so I just want to make sure that I don't overtalk because I've been told that is something I do because I get so excited about the stories and the possibilities. But before we even get there, could you tell my Hopemoore family who may not know you who you are? And let me tell you guys, y'all better get to know him because his name you're going to one day see on somebody's shelf and somebody's, Hollywood studio and be like, I remember listening to Hope talk to him in 2021. So tell my audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, again, I'm Justin DeFoor. I'm originally from California. I've been here in Georgia for about 20 years. I am a consultant by trade. I've been in consulting for about 4 years, but I'm also in the finance industry as well. So I deal mainly with insurance and the financial industry, but I deal in the credit as well. I'm also a motivational speaker. I am a author, and I just, my goal, and I also own a clothing company. So my goal is always to inspire, to educate, to advance other people that come across. So that's me.
Yes. Okay. So when we're talking about the questions that was posed on the flyer about people being underemployed or, no generational transfer of assets or just overextended, you have been through those circumstances and have found ways out. And the work you do now helps educate other people to also find their way out, right?
That's correct. I'll tell you, one of the reasons that I actually got into this industry was because I wanted to understand people's why, right? I wanted to be able to help them develop a plan, a strategy to not only live the best life that they're supposed to live, but even above that, right? Because, in the Bible, it talks about, he came that we might have life, but have it more abundantly. So when we're talking about abundance, generational wealth to me is abundance. And so, when it comes to wealth and when it comes to health and when it comes to a lot of different things that even in our community that we don't like to talk about, right? It's important, it's imperative that you have to know, what your why is, right? And so I know for me, my why, of course, was my children, right? That's honestly one of the reasons I have a master's degree. So one of the reasons that I finished
master's degree, okay.
One of the reasons I finished my master's, honestly, was so that my daughter at the time could see that if she put her mind to something, she can accomplish it. So she saw me walk twice, got my bachelor's and then my master's. So my goal is to do the same thing when it comes to other people's children and understand the aspect of, knowing your why and then moving on it. So
I love that. You know what? We're going to get to some practical examples of how people can walk out of, I call it broken integrity. And some people may call it, overextension, bad credit, or maybe the credit is not the issue, but just living above your means or appearing to live at a certain economic status, but that's not where you have it.
Right.
And particularly in the Black community, not everywhere, but
Right.
I've been told by a number of non-Black people that like, you really can't tell like who in the Black community has money if you just see them walk into an event, because
Right.
we can often be blinked out to the gods,
Right.
and there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, right?
Right.
Because usually it's on the other side, right? You got on a Rolex and bling around your neck. You are putting forth a certain image
Right.
of maybe wealth, but the reality is you may live with your grandma in the projects. I wanted to ask you, and this is not scientific or sociological, excavated anthropological type of discussion, but in general, why do you think that particularly Black people, that's so important to them to look a certain way, particularly look a certain financial status? Like, yeah.
Well, I would say it's attraction breeds, right, a lot of different things, right? So if you look like money, then it'll attract money. So whether you have the money per se, you can, if you understand the concept of attraction marketing is what it's called, attraction marketing, then you'll put yourself in a better position to get those people that maybe make the 6-7 figures that you're really looking for. So it's all about the attractive marketing. I remember me being a manager at a call center, years back, and I would always, of course, wear suits, and everybody would be dressed down, and but they would ask me, why do you wear a suit? Because in my mind, I'm saying, and I tell them, I say, well, I'm a CEO in my mind, so this is how I'm dressed. So it's all about, I think, perception, right? It's not necessarily what you have, right? It's about what you do with what you have. And so I think that's what it is, the attraction marketing and getting people to see, this is what I want, this is what I desire, this is what I want to walk into. And so because you have that thought process, because you have that mindset, then eventually you walk into it.
I love that. And I definitely think that is, also, we know it's a biblical principle, but also I guess mainstream talks about this secret, watch your confession, how you present yourself, whatever you send out there will come back to you. Right. And I think that's great, right? You do what you can, you present yourself to the world the best you can.
Right.
Here's where my dilemma is that sometimes for some people, or let's just say everybody at least once experience, where your money it's not about you presenting the best, but you sort of like go out and get things that you don't or can't afford to impress people who you might not even like, to put on something. And that's what I'm talking about, being broke despite the bling. Because you're talking about, I won't say fake it till you make it. You're talking about basically presenting yourself to the world with your best foot forward, seeing what you want to be and being that. Right. I'm talking about on the other spectrum where you think that you have to impress people by using money you don't have, and you're actually making yourself more impoverished. Why do you think for some people that is sort of like the way to go, or especially in our culture?
Well, I would say this, I'm definitely not speaking from a mountaintop here. I've been the type of person to where I want to spend money that I don't necessarily have. And I think it's honestly to present a mindset to say that I have it, right? But on the other end, in the back, right, my balance is negative, right? I'm putting stuff in negative, so I got to pay overs because I want to impress the people that I'm with, or whatever the case may be. But the reason I believe that is, honestly, it could be for the lack of knowledge, right? They don't understand the difference between what's a liability and what's an asset, right? Maybe they're not in that mind frame to think about their later future, right? Their future, they're only thinking about their present, right? And that's, of course, people do that, right? People think about the here and now, right? And not the future, because all we have right now is the here and now. But if you're really looking at it from a financial perspective, looking at it from a even a health perspective, right? People are living longer, so why not plan for the future, right now? Because I mean, and so when you're looking at it, I don't know what it is, and it could be mainstream, right? It could be the people that they hang around, right? It could be just because you want it at that particular time, and they listen to these different songs. I got this money to spend.
Right.
But here's the thing: you got this money to spend, and so now you got the next 2-3 weeks you're eating Roman noodles because you went out and spent all this money. Right. So it's so it's about show, and I think again, like I said, it's about understanding and having the knowledge to really put some things together, put some perspective together. And I think it's it says for the lack of knowledge, my people perish. So they lack that knowledge, they lack a vision, right, for their future, right? So that's what I think it is. Honestly.
What's amazing is that, and I mean, these stats that I remember, gosh, they were from 2018, maybe, or 2017, maybe even earlier, because I'm trying to think. It's when I was working with Studio 11 Films more regularly, and we were looking at, and it's been funny since that time. It was like 2015. We've seen this huge growth of television channels being dedicated to Black art with original programming. It's not just all music videos, but even when you look at UPN and WB, those channels, they had the Moeshas, they had the Living Single. They use Black monetary support to blow up their channels, and then they cancel the shows. We have amazing buying power, and maybe it was 2015 where supposedly, and you may know more than I would as far as the most recent statistics, but they were saying like a Black American giving could easily be like the 13th highest economy in the world or something crazy like that. And so we and I know this is for anyone, but I particularly look at those statistics like that, like wow, we have expendable income, or maybe we don't have expendable, we spend money, but we don't keep it in our community, and we hear that all the time. So this is not the show, but the idea that our economy, we could have like our own country with like the 13th highest GDP or something. And then when you see stories like, oh, Black women average assets is $5, like the average Black woman's asset is about $5. I was like, so like, how is that possible? How is that possible? So then stories like this and talking to you is why I think is like so important. And maybe because a lot of people are faking the funk. We don't want to talk about maybe overextending ourselves in student loans for a job that only pays $20,000 after you got out, or we don't want to admit that maybe certain lifestyle decisions affects our health, so it affects our wallet, or affects, maybe we end up having children younger or without planning. We don't want, and I'm talking about women, but men have their own things too. There's like, or we're just sort of like maybe in this mentality, like, well, it's always going to be a hustle and a struggle, so this is just mine. Let me ask you, since you already put it out there that you understand and you experience that, what, if anything, help you like have a different mindset that you have now? Like, what maybe was the first steps towards like you know what, I need to make some better decisions regarding my finances?
Well, first, great question. I believe the most important thing for me was my children, right? Understanding that I had a responsibility to them, and not only that, but also just looking at it from a more global standpoint, right? Looking at it from the United States and how income and how taxes and all that stuff work, right? So we know that the tax code was made foreign entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. So in order for me to get the necessary things that I wanted to get in my life to be better, right, to grow into things of that nature, I had to become an entrepreneur, right? And so,
wait a minute. You know what? You just said a lot, and I know I went to law school. I didn't know the tax code was made for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, it's created for.
All I think about tax code is like a bunch of lawyers and accountants came up with a way to make things hard. If you're less knowledgeable about finances and tax structure, where you're going to pay all the taxes, and if you do understand it, then you know how to avoid them. But that's a good point. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, I mean, why do you think a lot of corporations get a lot of tax breaks? Because it's made for them, right? So when it comes to even looking at it from even last year's perspective, right? You saw how they quote unquote call people essential and non-essential, right? And so it just so, you know, if I'm looking at it from that perspective, and going back to your question, I didn't want to be considered non-essential, right? I wanted to put myself in a better place, because honestly, we're all essential, right? And if we just grasp some knowledge, some concepts, some ideas, and start moving towards them, then we can actually, and that's why I think that's where we're like 13th GDP, because we have so many entrepreneurial aspects, and we have some entrepreneurial ideas. If you look at, here's the thing, we get taught Black history, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And we know it's in February, right? We get 1 month to talk about us, right? We get 1 month to talk about us, right?
28 days.
Exactly. Exactly. 20 on a leap year. On a leap
year.
Probably, I would say, if you would looked at all of the different things that were created in the United States, right, came from us. So why is it that we can basically put ourselves in a place to where we're still at the bottom when we shouldn't be, right? Because here's the thing, even though we created, because if it wasn't for us, then there would be no United States. Anyway.
All right, now break it down.
So when it comes to our financial standpoint, our financial thought process, it should always be about, how do I help the next generation achieve what I want to achieve, right? I want to achieve freedom. If I can't, think about it, from the slaves, right? They wanted to be free. So what did they have to do? They had to create something, right, called the Underground Railroad, and they did those things to be free. So they, I'm gonna say, went outside of the box, right, to do what they needed to do to be free. So when it comes to our finance, we need to do the same thing. Think outside of the box. That's why we have so many ideas. That's why we have so many entrepreneurial concepts and things like that, just because we know that we have to think outside of the box in order for us to get, say, a leg up from our counterparts, right? And so being taught this information, knowing this information, understanding this information, then it will not only bring us, to me, it should bring us together, because now we can actually work together to, you know, have better education for our children. So, you know, and you know, better roads for our communities, and we can have our own schools, and we can have our own, whatever the case may be. Because honestly, back in the day when we were segregated, we had our own schools, right? I mean,
right. We had our own businesses. And
yeah, so it wasn't like we didn't have all these things, right? But back to my point. My point is that we have to learn how to get the necessary things that we need to get, understand the things that we need to understand, and that's credit, that's finance. Ooh, right?
That's that BC word. That's that big C word.
Credit, right? Understand what taxes are. Understand about inflation, right? How to outpace inflation. How to, you know, basically have something to basically help you if something were to happen to you, right? I wrote a statistic down. Over 70% of bankruptcies are over healthcare costs. So it's,
wow, 70%?
70%, over 70%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So people always talk about fine. It's divorce. No, it's not. It's healthcare. So you know, being taught the education on how to be able to put some money away so that when that happens, or if that, you know, because it's not if, it's when that happens, you have money to get that and learn that, then you know you'll have that when that happens. So it's something that I teach, and you know, I think that everyone should know this, right? I think that everyone should be able to have access to this type of information. And so yeah, I mean, it's all about growth. It's all about understanding and having the knowledge. See, people think that when it comes to finance, it's all about money. No, because if it was all about money, there wouldn't be no need for credit.
Well, you know what? Let's talk about credit.
Okay.
I dropped something down here, so I'm trying to pick it up. I have not been able to do it conspicuously, so like I just want to tell people in case they're like, why does she keep going down? The whole credit thing, I sometimes wonder, because you made mention of, you know, during segregation, we did have businesses. Even now, when I go to third world countries or the average Haitian neighborhood or African neighborhood, in that neighborhood, someone's selling some soda, some cans. Like, it just seems like, regardless of integration or racism, even though there's real racism in the systems that we deal with in the US, Black people and people of color have always been like entrepreneurial, like you were mentioning. But I wonder sometimes, did credit and getting involved in too much debt potentially, has that hurt us? Because back in those days, you really weren't afforded a lot of credit, if at all, right? You sort of like, you paid as you could afford. But let's talk about this credit thing, because I know credit has trapped many people, regardless of gender or race, but it effectively definitely can really hurt those without maybe a generational literacy, financial literacy of how credit works. So, like, you know, break it down. What do you want to share with us about credit as it relates to needing the knowledge?
So, I am part of a company where I built a company called the Game Changers. And so what my definition of credit is access, right? And so when I think about access, I think about being able to knock on doors and have them open on places that I wouldn't think that I would have access to. So when you have the credit, you have access to more things, a better credit rating or a better APR rate. Say you want to get a car or a home, if you have access. And so when you have access, it means that you're accountable for the things that you access, right? And so if we're talking biblically, right, it says he gave us dominion. So we have ownership. See, and what people don't recognize is that when you have good credit, that means that you taking on ownership of multiple things, and you are able to put them in a place to where you can take account for them, right? And so that's what credit is. Credit is taking account. So if I'm giving you credit, that means you're taking ownership of the things in which I allowed you to take. Like, right? So you got a car, that means you have now something that I've allowed you to take. Now let's see if you can make sure that you make those payments, and you're responsible enough to make those payments and things of that. So it's all about access, right? So to your point, to your question, like I said, credit is access. To me, the most important thing in regards to credit is a lot of people don't understand when it comes to like credit cards, right? If the average household has about 16,000 worth of debt in credit card bills, in credit card. So, and that's saying a lot, right? $16,000, right? So, if you understand how credit works, how credit cards work, of course, you know there are 3 bureaus: Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax.
Right? Demonic little forces.
So exactly. So you gotta, and here's the thing: you gotta understand that each one deals in its own aspect, right? You might get one that's pulled from TransUnion, and you might get one pulled from Experian. So wherever you go, they pull from different areas, right? Different credit bureaus. So if you know the knowledge, if you understand how credit works, that's why they say, don't do a lot of pulling, don't do a lot of inquiries, because, it could mess up your credit or whatever the case may be. Because what it says is, oh, I'm trying to get this credit over here. Oh, they don't want me. Okay, I'm gonna go over here. It's like, and see if and they're like, hold up, wait a minute, why are you doing so many? What, you can't get access over here? See, what that means is you don't have access over here. That means I got to go over here to get some access. Oh, I can't get access over here. I got to go over here to get access. You see what I'm saying? So instead of just understanding, if I take my credit seriously, then I'll understand that no matter where I go, I'll have access, right? No matter where I go, I'll have access. Why? Because I was responsible enough to and I took account of what I borrowed or what I used or whatever the case may be. There's also, they don't want you to use a certain percentage of your credit card, right? Or your credit card bills, right? The utilization is what they call it, right? 30%. 30% of your utilization. So say you have a credit card for $1,000, right? $300. They don't want you to use over $300 within a month's time. So understanding how utilization works,
Wow.
things of that nature. If you understand that piece, then it helps you as well. It helps you build your credit as well. Of course, mortgage payments on time. All these different things take account of ownership. And so, and of course, when if you understand ownership, then you understand access, right? I have access to these certain things. And so when it comes to credit, I wrote some things down in regards to what I would say would help people in regards to finance, right? I wrote three.
Yeah, definitely.
So one of the things I wrote down was make a vision financially, right? Make a vision financially of how much you want to make, of how much you want your credit score to be, of all of those different things in regards to your finances. Say I want to make $100,000 this year. Okay, how do I want to make it? Do I want to make it just working a 9 to 5? Do I want to make it working a 9 to 5 and a business? How do I want to make that money, right? Then put some goals together. Once you put some goals together, then you start walking it out. The second thing I wrote down was consistency, right? See, because you can start something, and a lot of people do, right? A lot of people are just starters. I start something real good, but then I don't want to take the time to actually fulfill it, right? I don't want to see it move. It's not moving fast enough, right?
So what's number 2? Fulfill?
No, number 2 is consistency.
Consistency.
Yeah.
I'm writing this down for my own self too. This is some good stuff, y'all. Y'all should be writing it down or watching this again. Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Consistency, right? Staying focused. A lot of times we get discouraged or we get distracted by some things, so we don't stay focused on that particular goal, right? So once we have the vision, we make it plain, we write the goals, we stay consistent, and then we start seeing those goals, right? You want to write some short-term goals, you want to write some long-term goals, things of that nature. You start seeing those things being achieved. And then the last thing I wrote was resources. And I'm talking about like mentors, people that will help you along the
After you've taken your 2 minutes to think about how much money you want to make, then you're going to start pacing it out throughout the year. How much do you make in trust? How much are you going to take in client deposits? How much are you going to take in consultations?